Hello, guys. Welcome to the untold story of Chief. I just spent the last 20 minutes note-taking to keep in mind all of the important elements that I should be keeping in mind with this story. It's going to be a lot of personal stuff, so if that interests you, buckle up. The story starts when I was young. 3, maybe 4 years old. I was young. Everything was great. I was just enjoying life, being a happy little kid, doing happy little kid things. And then, all of a sudden, from my dad's perspective, he claims that just one day, something in me shifted. He didn't know why. He didn't know how. He wasn't even sure what exactly. But something changed. And to my knowledge, I can also agree that there was a change. I started putting on a lot of weight. I started gaining a crazy amount of weight. I was 90 pounds in frickin' first grade, which, if you have any idea of how big that's just a big kid. He's a chonker, you know? My temper started to plummet. I became very angry, very aggressive. I started getting into fights with other people. I wouldn't start fights, but I would sure as heck finish them. Like, if someone rubbed me the wrong way or pushed me, I would just go right back at them. It wasn't good. I couldn't really think clearly. School started becoming a struggle, and this went on till about 5th, maybe 6th grade, where I actually got pulled out of private school and taken to a private developmental school for people with autism and bipolar disorder and all these other things. And I will say, I remember the first time I was there, just as a kid, I was very ashamed of being considered associated with these people. And of course it doesn't hold true now, but at the time I was very, very ashamed. I'm like, I'm not autistic. I'm not bipolar. I don't have any of this crap. I didn't like that. I even was more ashamed of the fact that I had to take the short bus to get there. If you know what the short bus is, or if you don't know what the short bus is, it's essentially just a smaller version of the big yellow school bus that we all know and love. It's kind of been reserved for those that normally have special needs, and so I felt like all that was doing was really hammering home the fact that I had special needs. And I felt very ashamed of the fact that I'd even been associated with the special needs. And I was like, oh, this is bad. This is terrible. I was there at this developmental school for a bit, and while I still don't believe I actually had any of the disorders, and I don't think I think everyone else was in agreement, at the very least, it was an area for me to sort of allow myself to restabilize and get myself on track as to whatever the heck had happened. It wasn't until probably I was around 14, so about 10 years later, there was some knowledge gained in the medical industry of certain side effects happening from certain vaccines. And it turns out what ended up happening to me was caused by a vaccine side effect. It only happened in 1 out of every 100,000 people. I just happened to be one of them. It caused the short temper. It caused a lot of basically chemical imbalances in the brain, which also in turn led, as a side effect of that side effect, to gaining a lot of weight, being aggravated, getting into fights. All that stuff just really came, from my understanding, as a side effect from the vaccine. And I'm not saying don't go get vaccines. I think it's fine. It's just, but you should always be cognizant of whatever you put in your body, whether it's food, medicine, whatever. That's not the message of this. The message is just that after 10 years, another thing that's coincidental is that the effects start wearing off. And so I was starting to regain composure. But in addition to that, I was also on something that helped accelerate that recovery, which was this multivitamin called True Hope. It was a certain proprietary blend I don't really know how it works other than it helped me. It almost made this red tinted shine that was like kind of like over my whole perspective of life up until that point start to go away and clear up. This red fog that kind of I didn't even realize had clouded my brain started to lift, and it's almost like I could see clearly for the first time. That's the best way I can really kind of relate to that. You know, eventually, with all this improvement, I did make my way back to public school. I was driving to school. I had my license. I was experiencing things like a normal high schooler. I felt like I was normal again. But I still had the weight. I hadn't managed to lose the weight. I still didn't really enjoy exercising. I didn't like the way I looked, but it was, you know, a problem. I definitely still had troubles making friends. I think I was a bit outcasted in high school. And rightfully so. Well, maybe not rightfully so, but, you know, it just is part of it. I was out for half of high school in that developmental at other educational facility. Trying to think of another word other than school. Didn't work out. But despite all of that, I did my best in high school, trying to have a normal life. I worked to get to college, albeit didn't work too hard, and by some freaking miracle, I got accepted into an engineering program at a handful of colleges, and I decided to go to one. I attended it, and I'm sitting there like, oh, this is nice. I'm in control of my own destiny. I'm taking care of it myself. But I still had one problem that was bothering me, and that was my weight. I was still ashamed of my weight. I did not like being overweight or fat or however chunky, husky, whatever you want to call it. I didn't like it. I felt ashamed. I remember telling myself, what girl would ever want to date a fat old me? And I felt very shameful of that. And so, despite making a bunch of friends, I decided I'm going to go to the gym. And one of my buddies, my best buddies to this day, joined me on that journey. So we started going to the gym and getting fit so we could be considered hot and we could be ripped for the ladies, because all the ladies love a ripped guy, right? Is that how it works? Well, as I was going to the gym, I started to notice something about myself, that my motivation for being fit wasn't actually for the women anymore, and it actually was starting to be for myself. I started to see the value in losing the weight, gaining some muscle, being limber, being athletic. And I saw the value in what it's just like to be healthy. I craved this feeling. I wanted more of it. So I kept exercising. And I think there was a certain point where it started to control a bit too much of my life, which the balance started to shift. I started to get so hyper-focused on being fit. Maybe I started to neglect my relationships a bit, or my ability with food. And I think it even started to get to a point where I was so hyper-focused about trying to lose weight and get muscle that I was barely allowing myself to eat. Because in my head, I was like, well, the less I eat, the more of a deficit I'll be in, and the more weight I'll lose. Which is true, but I said weight. It wasn't fat that I was losing. It was weight. And I started to get myself into a borderline anorexia position. And within the stresses of engineering, also tacking on, and trying to uphold relationships, and still at the time trying to get a girlfriend, I still really wanted one, I started to also succumb at the same time to binge eating. And so it turned into a whole thing where I would starve myself during the week and work myself tirelessly to the bone, going to the gym and going to my classes and doing my homework and barely getting any sleep. And then at the weekends, I would eat and binge so much because I thought it was a reward, and like, oh, you know, I'm still in the deficit. I'm still doing good, but no. I started once again putting on a lot of weight. I started putting on the fat. I actually started losing the muscle. I was going back to where I was. I was like, what's going on? I'm still working out, right? I'm still going to the gym. Yeah, but I wasn't fueling myself properly. And I started realizing how important, I'm not even sure exactly what it was that clicked in my head, but I think maybe it was a certain picture of a progress pic that I saw. That was like, whoa, this has gotten out of hand. I stopped the binging. I started allowing myself to eat again much more naturally. I started exercising more thoughtfully. I allowed myself the rest. I made sure I got rest, because you don't get healthy and you don't build muscle without rest. You don't lose fat without rest, actually. Well, maybe there's some stuff to it. And during this time, I was also able to pick up a new hobby. And I met a girl at the time. We started seeing each other. I started picking up YouTube. I was like, oh my God, this is fun. I like this. Because during this time, I also had been going on some internships. It never really clicked with me. I never really, as much as I loved learning engineering and doing engineering projects, I never enjoyed actually the job. I was like, it's probably because I'm an intern. Well, I graduate. All right. I graduate college. By some miracle, I'm sitting there holding my diploma, shocked that I actually made this work. From where I came to where I am. I am now a college graduate with an engineering degree that is fit and healthy. He's got a girlfriend now, and he's like, what? Oh my God, the journey we've came. And then COVID hit. COVID hit. Everyone's losing their jobs. And I'm sitting here like, oh my God, how am I going to get a job? I started feeling like I was losing motive and losing passion, and structure. But by some freaking miracle, I was able to land a job during the peak of unemployment in COVID. And as I was working there, it was for a big engineering firm doing some big projects. And I was like, this is it. This is going to be great. We're going to be vibing for the rest of our life. We're going to be just chugging along. I think that mentality lasted all of 6 months when I realized I still wasn't happy. I'm an engineer now. I'm doing big boy engineering things. I'm still struggling. I'm like, why is this the case? Come on. You're an engineer now, chief. You should be bussing. We should be cooking. And well, I didn't understand it. And then I got COVID. I had to quarantine for 14 days in my room, alone, in my apartment, where it was just me, myself, and I. The only social interactions I got were basically just the phone calls with my girlfriend at the time. I was lonely. I needed to find something to do, so I was thinking about it. And I booted up my YouTube channel that I tried all those years ago. I booted it up, started making some videos on Minecraft, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. It was so much fun. I realized I wanted to do more of this. More and more and more. But I still had bills to pay. Still had a life to lead. Well, my life slowly turned into a focus. A hyper focus. I was obsessed. I wanted to get better at YouTube. I was working so hard to figure out how to make better videos. My days turned into basically, I would wake up at 6:45, 7 o'clock. I'm working on the old grindstone, and I work from like 7 to 5 at my job, and then I come home, or I don't even come home. I'm working remote, actually. And then I remember I go to the gym right after, and then I get on the phone for like an hour with the girl, and then I'm doing YouTube till like 10 p.m. every night, 7 days a week, basically. If I wasn't working, or I wasn't going to the gym, or I was doing YouTube. And it was so unhealthy. I basically sacrificed so much balance out of my life that, once again, I found myself lacking lacking the balance, and in turn it actually started making me unhappy and miserable, and it started affecting my relationships, it started affecting my health, it started affecting my everything. And it was sort of a slippery slope, but I was determined. I was determined to make it work. So much so that I quit my job, you know? I quit my job at 3,000 subscribers, made 20 bucks my first month. And I'm still trying to have to pay rent. I gotta get groceries, insurance, all this adult crap that I have to deal with. But I was determined to make it work. And this was scary for me. I remember we are right now past my note-taking point for whatever reason. I don't know why I stopped there, so we're gonna kind of ad-lib this now. But I was determined to make it work and find balance. So I started getting back into the gym, being diligent with my gym, being diligent with my eating, working hard, but also making sure I allow myself room for relationships. And since all of my friends and family have the weekends off, I made sure to just give myself the weekends. I know there's more detail I can go in on this, but something that really has become evident to me throughout the course of my career has been balance. 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 Just out of the course of my life. I mean, every time I seem to be losing balance in one of the three, what I call it, pillars of my life, future, fitness, fun, as soon as one is being neglected while another is maybe being raised up, I can see my life starting to lose its quality. The most happiness I get throughout life is when all three are in perfect alignment, because I kind of look at it as a three-legged stool, and imagine there's a ball sitting on this stool, and every time you increase one of the legs of your life, let's say future, you're kind of working on your career and building it up, but you're neglecting your fitness and your fun. The ball is going to start slowly leaning over to that side, and it's going to probably fall off if you don't change anything soon. So you have to adjust and raise your fun levels, and you have to raise your fitness levels so that that ball stays perfectly in the center. That's the goal with life, is like time's always raising one or the other, but it's your job to make sure all three are raising at as best at the same rate as you can manage. It brings us pretty close to the present. I think maybe there's more to chat about on this subject. Definitely more detail that can be gone on with different elements of these. Let me know if there's anything you want to hear. But this is basically the untold story of Chief. I don't know if I've ever really spoken about it. Hopefully it made sense. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And hopefully you'll want to stick around for more. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. See ya.